guests, Renee Fleming and Dove Cameron. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, yeah, it is after 12. Yeah, we can say it. Now, this is you are both starring in a new production of The Light in the Piazza. It opens on the 14th of June at the Royal Festival Hall in London. And this is like a catch it while you can. It's 20 shows, and then it's...
That's right.
It is like Light in the Piazza.
This is it. Yes.
It just goes. Yeah. So, if people don't know the musical, because I don't know anything about it. So tell us about it.
Well, I play Margaret Johnson, and Dove is my daughter, Clara. And we are American tourists in 1953 in Florence, Italy. We're in Rome a little bit as well, but it's a fascinating story because it's a mother's dilemma, how to kind of perhaps have the opportunity for happiness for her daughter in love. And it's incredibly romantic environment, romantic score. And Dove, you have an extraordinary, really history with this show.
Yeah, well, so this has been my favorite show since I was 8 years old, so for over 2/3 of my life. And I know
yes, myself. You heard her.
I know, I'm sorry. I know. I have to underline the gravity of how long I've loved this show. And I keep saying it's not only my favorite show, it's my favorite body of work to be out in the world. I heard the soundtrack first, again, when I was really small, and I fell so deeply in love with it. My family, actually, my dad ended up building a piazza on the back of our house by himself.
Not to be confused with the pizza. Exactly.
Not a pizza. No. And later in life, I got a sun tattoo on me to remind me of the show because it means so much to me.
That's commitment.
That is commitment.
Yeah,
Renee?
I saw the original. All I can say is
your tattoo,
not having the third of my life part. I did see the original Lincoln Center and loved it immediately. Absolutely loved it. Yes. And it launched Kelly O'Hara's career. She's a huge star now. And Victoria Clark was amazing. And we have an amazing assemblage of performers now.
Yeah, Alex Jennings is kind of the big British name.
Yes, I know. And he's sort of my love interest.
Hello.
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
Very nice.
So very fortunate.
And because the two of you come from such kind of different worlds, it's fabulous that you kind of collide in this show.
Yes.
Because Renee, now you're going back to the Met after this, is that right?
Yes, I'm going back to the Met for another new work in a couple of years, which is extraordinary. I can't talk too much about it now, but Kevin Puts is a composer. And I'm touring all of next season with the famous virtuoso pianist Yevgeny Kissin. So, yeah, I'm very much still in my classical world, but this piece really brings the two worlds together. There are some roles that could only be sung by a classically trained singer, and there are roles that are absolutely pop. So there are a lot of different styles in the piece in a way that's homogenized and gorgeous.
Yeah, but for you, how different is it doing a show like this in terms of the discipline of your life and your voice? Do you take it all as seriously, or is this kind of easier?
Oh no, it's hard. I mean, it's different. I would say it's different. First of all, the amplification, the microphones make a big difference in how we sing and how we can use our voice, so we kind of preserve the voice through 6 to 8 performances a week. We're doing 6, which is much more humane, but still hard, much harder than the opera world, in which there are really 2 for the most part.
And for you, Dove, you've done...
Yes. Dove is looking at me in shock. Only 2, yeah.
Dove's thinking, I'm going to be an opera singer now. Stupid musical theater.
We're like weightlifters, We have to rest in between.
Yes. Because for you, how many... You did Clueless on Off-Broadway.
Yeah.
How long was that run?
That was a 3-month engagement, so a little bit longer than this one. That one was easier. This one for me, I think Renee and I were talking during rehearsals. I think this project presents a challenge to everyone involved because it's a deceptively difficult show. I and a few other cast members were kind of like, oh yeah, it's very. It doesn't sound like it's taxing singing.
It's very lyrical.
It's very lyrical, and it's, as long as you have good technique, it should carry you through. But it's really quite, everyone's role is very rangy. Like Renee has to go a lot lower than she usually does.
Right.
And I have to flip between chest, mix, and head voice, which is just... It is really taxing after a few performances, and so it's just about being really smart, and it's also a really emotional show. There's not really been a day where we haven't had some tears,
yeah,
because it's so touching, and So yeah, I would say this is one of the harder things I've done.
And now, your fame, Dove, is I went to see Clueless on Broadway.
Oh, you
and,
did?
But you weren't on.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
It was like someone had died. The audience were so upset that you weren't there.
That must have been when I threw my neck out.
Oh, I
threw my neck out towards the end.
Well, I heard you were fantastic in it.
Thank you so much.
Actually, and the woman who did your voice, she was very good too. So it was all good. We had a very nice night.
Yeah.
But it was just the impact you could take, the sense of mourning in the thing. All these people who just love you and have come to see your show.
That's
and
so sweet.
Is it the same here? Is it because in my stats it has 25 million Instagram followers. Where are they? Where are the 25 million people?
Funny enough, I think because most of my reach really comes from Disney. Disney is so international that they're really all over the world, which is rare. It's a very strange model, especially with the rise of social media. You really get to see exactly where everybody is, and it's a totally new thing, right? Like, in terms of the actual relationship with time, social media hasn't been around that long. So the whole concept of 25 million followers is quite it's
crazy.
It's only relative, right?
Because Renee, you and I grew up in a world where that wasn't a possibility.
Exactly.
Right.
It's so absolutely new. It's like a new facet to anyone's career.
And is it a burden? I mean, not a burden, but a responsibility when you kind of think, if I put up a picture, 25 million people could possibly see this thing.
No, I'm pretty good. I think even though I think I share a lot, I think only I can know how much I keep to myself, and I really do keep a lot of myself to myself. So for me, it feels pretty safe most days. I mean, some days it feels a little claustrophobic, knowing how much access everyone has to you, but you can really monitor that. I think you can keep a lot to yourself.
I think you do a great job, and it's so positive what you post all the way around. And I received requests from my sister-in-law for her grandchildren in Ecuador. we would give anything for a signed photo from Dove for these little girls. And I said, Dove, Ecuador, that's quite amazing.
Oh, Renee,
that's
all over
the Disney reach.
Yes.
And do you engage in this stuff? Do you tweet and things?
Of course, yeah. I think it's sort of de rigueur today, and it's kind of necessary for everybody, and especially for those of us who live in a more niche world artistically and sort of not the mainstream. We need to do it to kind of maintain a relationship with the audience. And my audience is also pretty worldwide, not as big as yours for sure, but it helps. It definitely helps.
Well, the albums, I guess, go everywhere.
Yes.
You can't physically go everywhere, but
that's right.
And you do have a new Decca record out,
yes.
Leader.
Thank you.
It's right. It's right here. I have it in my hand.
Which means song.
And is this out now?
It's out now, and
yes,
I think the most famous thing on it is the Brahms Lullaby, which most people know and love. It's pretty universal.
Yeah.
But they're beautiful, beautiful pieces, all of them.
But see, I would thought with social media that we've gone up where the audience sat in rows and clapped. I don't care what they think. So do you respond to people when they kind of message you and things?
Well, I can feel the audience throughout the performance. I have a sense of it, a sixth sense in a way, and I care very much about the audience being with me. No matter what it is that I'm performing. You probably feel the same way. We're performers because we need that love for some reason.
It's a vortex of need.
Yes, it is. It never goes away.
Validate us.
Renee kills me.
We're talking to Renee Fleming and Dove Cameron, who are starring in a new production of The Light in the Piazza, which opens on the 14th of June at the Royal Festival Hall and is there for 20 performances. It's directed by Daniel Evans. We'll have more after a song from the show. This is featured on your album, Broadway. This is Fable from The Light in the Piazza. We can do that, yeah. It's me and Dove. Applauding Renee Fleming. That was her performance of Fable from The Light in the Piazza. That was off her album Broadway with the BBC Concert Orchestra. But you will be performing that song in Light in the Piazza, which opens on June the 14th at the Royal Festival Hall here in London. And Renee's new album, Leader, is released on June 14th. Oh, it's a big day for you.
Yes, I know. It's busy. It's going to be a busy day.
Yeah.
What a star.
But the show is magical. It really is. I hope it gets on the radar and people come and see it.
Yeah, it has one of those names, because I think, people do know the name, and yet people don't know what the show's about. Certainly I was clueless as to what it was about. I just knew that it was romantic because all the imagery has those fabulous kind of 50s dresses and things. Is it 50s?
Yeah, 1953.
On it, yeah.
He's nailing it.
Oh, yeah. Now, who's this? This is Chris Sterlingshire. These are listeners who've been in touch. I have a question for Dove. I loved her in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Ruby Hale and gutted to see her apparently killed off after only about half a dozen episodes last season. Is there any chance we might see her in the show again? Thanks.
Oh, well, what a good question. Well, so I love doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It was a very different role for me, and I love to play somewhat of a villain. I would love to come back and play Ruby again. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Marvel is one of those cool worlds where anything can really happen. I think a few seasons ago, somebody lost their head and was able to come back or something like that. Like, there...
Isn't life grand?
Yeah, I mean, actually lost their head, sort of as a figure of speech.
Yeah, I was always told by the producers that, in this kind of world, anything can happen. You can always come back. But I haven't heard anything yet, but I would certainly love to. It's a great cast and crew. And
so the door isn't shut?
No.
The door isn't shut?
No.
Renee, this is from Marcus in Ruthin. I read you considered a career as a jazz singer before taking the plunge as a soprano. What prompted that decision? And who were your favorite jazz vocalists? Is that true?
Yes. Illinois Jacquet, the great tenor sax player, asked me to come and tour with the big band because he heard me, because I played with a trio every Sunday night for a couple of years in college, and I just went on to grad school instead. I just was too nervous about that kind of lifestyle, and I was a little bit shy, and thank God I didn't do it, because I wouldn't have had this extraordinary career as a classical opera singer, which I've loved. And I love jazz singers and jazz. I listen all the time. I'm an avid listener. I love Kurt Elling, Diane Reeves, and there have been so many extraordinary people, but I love Brad Meldau and pianists too. I'm just a big fan of jazz.
But that's quite a unique thing, isn't it, for a singer to be able to drift between those disciplines?
But just having the improvisation, having all of that style that I had to develop helped me in my classical singing. It's what gave me my sort of unique way of phrasing, for instance.
Okay. Now, Dove, I'm coming to see you in London. It will be my first stage musical, and I can't wait. This is from Melissa. She's 16 from Ilford. Which Disney musical would you like to do or be in?
I would love to do Frozen.
Yes.
I think I don't know any girl in my demo.
Which role?
Elsa.
Oh,
sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I would love to do Frozen.
Pop a blue dress on, you're there. It's... and it hasn't come to London yet.
Let's do it. You heard it
colder
here
in here by the minute.
I have to say, where I go to the gym, there's a children's dance class upstairs, and they have Frozen on 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And even children must get bored of that song, but they really don't.
I don't think so.
No. On and on it goes. Renee, you were the first opera star to sing at the American Super Bowl. How nervous were you, and how did you prepare for it, David in Liverpool?
Oh, wow, that was nerve-wracking. 110 million people live with helicopters flying over. They were wise. They had us really rehearse everything, including the helicopters, but you can't rehearse for that number of people in the stadium who are roaring and roaring and roaring. So
and can you hear yourself?
I had a little earbud, and nothing fancy, just a sort of a cheapy one, but it helped a little bit. And it just takes preparation and focus. So all of the experience of performing really paid off in that moment.
Wow.
I'll never get over how cool you are. Every 10 minutes, I'm like, wow, my gosh.
Come on.
Dove, I read... Oh, did you do Mamma Mia on stage?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is Polly in Birmingham. Did you do that on Broadway?
No, I did it in LA at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh, like a staged...
Yeah.
thing. How fun.
Oh, it was so fun. I did it with Corbin Bleu and... Leah Delaria, like an amazing cast.
That's extraordinary, yeah. Renee, apart from the Royal Festival Hall in London, what's your favourite venue in which to perform? Gemma in Bristol.
Oh, gosh. I love the sort of smaller, extraordinary concert houses and the slightly smaller opera houses. Royal Opera is the ideal. It is so extraordinary to sing there because I feel like I have more possibility for a dynamic range. I can sing very softly as well as big. But of course, a lot of the major houses are extraordinary. The Musikverein in Vienna, the Metropolitan Opera has been my home for a long time, so I loved it there. And so many other millions of gorgeous places.
Do you prefer singing unamplified so that you have sort of control?
Control, yes. This is what I've done my whole career, so it's what I'm used to. And even if it's a bad acoustic, I find I can, after 20 minutes, figure out where the sweet spot is and try to go there. It's a very subtle process, but amplification, you don't have the control, but it does give you some kind of padding in terms of not having to really, use your voice to its detriment.
Dove, a very sweet message from Henry in Brighton. He wants to thank you for speaking about eating disorders because his daughter suffers from this and she's only 13, and wanted to know that your story is helping his family talk about those things.
Oh, that makes me emotional. Yeah. That's really sweet.
No, it's very nice. And presumably that's part of, you can do things like that with your social media reach. And
yeah, that's virtually only what it means to me is the incredible opportunity to communicate, especially with younger people, because it's such a formidable age. Everything's happening in my demo that I am able to connect with, and I feel really privileged to be able to kind of reach in and hopefully do some good, right? Like, if you're going to have a bunch of people listening to you, you might as well do something with that and speak about something that could help them.
Well said, that woman.
Yes.
Renee Fleming and Dove Cameron, thank you so much for coming in. They are starring in Light in the Piazza, opens on the 14th at the Royal Festival Hall in London, and Renee's album, Leader, is out the same day. Thank you so much for coming to see us.
Thank you so much.